Where the hell is this?
Not hell, just the dream world. I am your dream host today. You may call me Nyx.
My what now?
Dream host. It appears you're lucid dreaming this fine eve.
Oh, great. Can I dream about Shota Aizawa?
No.
Seinijima?
No.
Maki Zenin?
No.
Estinian?
No. Lady, you're dreaming about me sitting in your apartment. You're writing a script.
Well, this isn't very fun lucid dreaming.
Oh, sorry. Here you are.
Okay, you know what? Writing a script sounds fun. Let's do that.
Humans.
Hello, and welcome back to the Bird channel, where we talk about whatever I want, apparently. And I stream on twitch.tv/Jinsey. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider liking this video and perhaps telling me to have a nice day in the comments, or I'll come to your house. Today we're going to have a chat about dreams, how they're thought of and depicted in stories around the world, but also about dreams in general, because they're all technically stories in and of themselves. I just want to tell you some stuff about dreams in general for a bit. This topic was spontaneously requested by a Master of the Universe, Coolsta, during a live stream a while ago. We're certainly keeping to varied topics, at least. And don't worry, we'll do some more game things next time, but without further ado, gather round the fire and let me tell you a tale.
In the beginning, there were dreams, probably, and people would not stop making up stories about them, much like everything else yet unknown in the world. By that I mean, they made gods for them. Most prominently the ancient Greek pantheon, which was absorbed directly by their biggest fans, the Romans. They adopted Hypnos, or Somnus in Roman, where they slightly tweak the myth as the twin brother of Thanatos, death, and Geras, old age. All of them were very interested in knocking people out in one way or another, but they were not the only brothers available. They were just some of the more important ones of Nyx's thousands of children, collectively known as the Oneroi. The Oneroi were personifications of dreams, like Morpheus, who appeared as a human in dreams, Phobetor, who presented nightmarish beasts, or Phantasos, who represented items made of the elements, like rocks and trees. And if you're a lucky Canadian, you might even get some water.
Water!
Behold, among my thousands of children, these are the most powerful, most important. Thanatos, of death, ever certain, ever creeping.
Hey.
Hypnos, of sleep, the only respite in a long day's work, a safe harbor. And finally, Geras, of being some old dude.
Hey! But those are not the only dream mythos entries, of course. Epialis, for example, was a spirit or demon from Greek mythology that personified nightmares. While it's mentioned they might have been among the Oneroi as well, Epialis was mentioned separate from Phobetor, implying that different Oneroi might have been responsible for very specific types of nightmares. Although other sources mention that Phobetor had his own slew of children who were collectively the nightmares, Epialis might have simply been one of them. Unfortunately, like many names from Greek literature, Epialis is only really mentioned in passing, and so dreams, like many other subjects, have a plethora of minor deities and gods that are just sort of there. And what each is capable of or represents is generally vague at best. Melinoe is a chthonic nymph, also said to be a bringer of nightmares and madness, but she's not an Oneroi. Instead, she is the daughter of Persephone and either Hades or Zeus, or both, depending on the story. They really couldn't agree on anything up there.
One thing they did agree on was that dreams themselves had to be messages from the gods, of course. They were communicating directly through sending specific Oneroi into our dreams with prophetic visions and demands. Although they also had a clever way of explaining why a dream would not come true. The land of sleep has two gates, one of ivory and one of horn. When a dream leaves to visit any one person, they will pass through one of these gates, and depending on the type, the dream will be true or false. Horn for truth, ivory for falsehoods. But there was never really any malice involved, and Hypnos himself was generally shown to be a kind and merciful god who, as he ruled the realm of sleep, owned half our lives. It's curious for that reason that Hypnos appears in several trickster roles throughout his stories, even though it was generally Hera's fault. She'd asked him to put Zeus to sleep not once, but twice, so she could deal with Earth's goings-on at her leisure. One of these earthly happenings was the Trojan War, which Hypnos intervened in on behalf of the Archeans, all because Hera had promised him a pretty wife. Really, all the gods were very similar in their wants and needs.
And by the way, sweet cheeks, I'm real too.
Hera,
Yes, darling brother. I mean husband, whatever. Both.
do you ever feel like the games we play with mortals is too much?
Oh, I don't know, dear. Why don't you turn into a swan and ask the nearest hot single in your area?
Oh, for God's sakes, that was years ago!
Don't swear by us. Anyway, we need entertainment. Not everyone gets their rocks off going around offering random people immortality.
I feel like you're angry with me.
Yes, well, I remember a time where you only turn into animals to seduce me, not every random harlot on the street.
Hera, darling, would you like to have a night together, just the two of us? I'll turn into a cuckoo for old time's sake.
Yes, I'd like that very much, actually.
You're going to try and overthrow him again?
Absolutely.
Get it, girl.
The Egyptians instead believed that the dream world lay somewhere between life and death. The sun god Ra was said to travel in part through the Duat each night to recover his strength and rise again in the sky the next morning. Duat was the Egyptian underworld and host to a number of gods in itself, including Osiris, the first mummy and now god of the afterlife, among other things. The underworld was not necessarily separate from the world of the living, just harder to access if you weren't a god. However, during one's dreams, it was believed you would at times be given a window into the land of the dead to observe the activities of the deceased. But because you were asleep and technically powerless to do anything, that also gave rise to the fear that malicious spirits would use this dream window to invade our world through them. Still, most held dreams in high regard, as gods would once again send messages through them. Now they just had to figure out what they meant.
Hey there.
Hold on, you're not in our pantheon?
Yes, well, Ra was indisposed on account of all the dead people. I have a message for you.
Oh, well, all right then. What's the message?
Let's see, what was it again? A crow flies south in the morning light. There is no more salt in the cupboard.
Huh?
That's it. That's the message.
Well, what the duat does that mean?
Well, that's for you to find out. Farewell. Ask me about my immortality clause sometimes.
Honey, can we restock the salt just in case? And maybe get birdseed or whatever? And a priest? Dream interpretation, also called oniromancy, became important enough for people to visit dream temples for specific gods in an attempt to encourage dreams that might solve their problems or make decisions for them. The temples were open to anyone as long as you had faith and had cleansed yourself through things like fasting or abstinence. However, because some dreams were bad omens, of course there were ways to prevent them from coming true once they'd been explained. While eating fresh bread and green herbs moistened with beer, one would recite, come to me, my mother Isis. Behold, I am seeing what is far from my city." Any ill events witnessed in the dream would be warded off. I'm sure someone somewhere was making money off of this idea.
In order to make sense of their dreams more efficiently, dream books were also created, essentially a listing of the more common dreams and their meanings, although it's not entirely clear how much stock anyone put in these particular books. I suspect most people would prefer to have their specific dream explained by a specialist, priests and the like who were professional dream interpreters because the gods had mandated them to do so. They would either sleep beside you as you dreamt, or you would sleep in the temple and explain your dream to them after the fact. Sometimes they would even dream for you. Either way, they would tell you what it meant, like dreaming of a large cat meant you would have a bumper crop.
Hey, hi, sorry, I need a dream reading.
You have come to the right place.
Yeah, your sign was a bit of a giveaway. Anyway, my teeth keep falling out, and I was wondering what's up with that.
I will consult the dream book.
Good, yes, thank you.
It says here that you may fear losing a loved one. Or a marriage.
Well,
Or a job. Or a home.
so losing something. Okay, yes, I get it.
Or you're suffering from anxiety. Or you feel like you're progressing.
Yes, thank
You might feel like you're losing control or have a negative self-image or this might just be one of those Freudian things actually. You thought of that?
I feel like you're not really pinning this down for me right now. Could also just be a fear of your teeth falling out. Someone's teeth are about to fall out.
No,
Another Egyptian belief was that the dream journey took us to the stars themselves, specifically to Sirius, the moist land, believed to be the source of higher consciousness and the destination of advanced souls after death. This between life and death concept comes back in a lot of Native American culture as well, with various nations having different beliefs and practices surrounding it. But most seeing at least some spiritual significance in dreams and visions to some extent. And with that, some way of accessing this other dimension to tap into its knowledge, or, in some stories, save a soul from death. The Australian Aboriginal mythology goes even further. In their stories, the ancestral spirits dream the world, including their own forms, into existence. The Aboriginal name for this period of creation loosely translates as dream time or the dreaming, and they believe that the dreaming still persists as a reality or other plane of existence that some people could visit in their own mortal dreams, during which they would talk to ancestral spirits or witness creation as it happened. But those are all myths and legends, so how does dreaming actually work?
In general, sleep is there to keep the machine going. It's like shutting down your PC, but for your body. Please don't leave your PC running for weeks, please. Sleep removes toxins in your brain that build up while you're awake, and it affects practically every system in your body, from the heart, brain, lungs, and metabolism to immune function, mood, and disease resistance. It starts with the hypothalamus part of your brain that checks if things are dark enough around you yet. If it is, your brain starts to send signals to other parts of the body, telling them to get sleep ready. Your muscles relax, the thalamus tunes out the world, the pineal gland and basal forebrain feed you sleep drugs, and the amygdala shuts up until our dreams actually start. Otherwise, you'll never fall asleep.
Right, thank you all for showing up today. We're about to go to sleep, so let's do a roll call. Hypothalamus. All good? Eyes are closed and it's dark out? Excellent. Muscles, can you contain yourself? I'm doing my best, but I might slap the person next to us in the face for a bit. Acceptable. Thalamus, start prepping a soothing dream for REM sleep. Best I can do is 2 nightmares and a fever dream. Acceptable. Pineal gland, basal forebrain. Sleep drugs, ready? Anytime! Especially in the middle of the day when we're trying to get work done. Cool. Amygdala, yes? Are you going to behave? That depends, amygdala. Do you remember an event that took place like 5 years ago and took all of 2 seconds and no one but me remembers anymore? Oh, I remember that. Thank you, hippocampus. I thought this would be a good time to bring that to the forefront again. Absolutely not. I feel very strongly about this. I can see that, but we're trying to sleep. I'm going to write a dissertation on the matter right now. I'll be in my office. No, amygdala! I hate my job.
Why our brains?
Assuming you fell asleep as you'd hoped, there are 2 basic types of sleep. Rapid eye movement, REM for short, and non-REM sleep, which in itself has 3 different stages. You cycle through all of these stages several times during the night, with increasingly longer, deeper REM periods the closer to morning you get. Stage 1 of non-REM sleep is the period from wakefulness to sleep. Your whole body slows down a good amount at this point. Stage 2 slows your body down even further, but also drops your body temperature and eye movement, with only brief bursts of electrical activity in your brain. Stage 3 is the proper refreshing phase for your body, and largely during the first half of the night, the deep sleep. Your body slows even more, and you're difficult to wake up. Now, we finally get to REM sleep. It happens roughly 90 minutes after falling asleep, and as the name suggests, your eyes move rapidly behind your closed eyelids. Your brain activity is a lot closer now to the kind shown when you're awake. Your body starts to activate again too, almost like you're waking up. But this is when you're dreaming. Your actual arm and leg muscles are paralyzed for this phase, so you don't take your own eyes out by accident, but that's about it.
Everyone dreams, no exception. We don't all remember that we did, though, which should mean that the content of the dream itself isn't all too important in regards to its function. They might simply help you process the emotions of your day-to-day life, especially as people who suffer from stress or anxiety are more likely to have frightening dreams. Your memory is quite certainly involved, however, as dreams are generally nothing more than a strange mishmash of previous experiences. Studies from the 1960s also found that a damaged hippocampus, in large part responsible for your long-term memory, affects your dreams. Not just because of the memory thing, but apparently it also aids in constructing the dream, thinking up new, interesting events. Your dreams, in this case, will be largely incoherent, or more so than usual anyway. In that same vein, amnesia patients have less vivid or detailed dreams.
Some believe that dreams are just there to sort through information during our sleep, to reorder our brain. This theory poses that dreams occur just when the brain processes information, getting rid of all the ostensibly pointless things and moving important short-term memories to the long-term memory banks. Others see it more as a window into the subconscious. After all, you often dream about things you couldn't possibly remember while awake. That's also why, at times, when a dream is very intense, our brain blocks the memory of it entirely, so it doesn't get lost in reality. That's how you forget dreams. It's the type of dream that's so real, you're not sure if perhaps it really happened. Our brain forgets it, so we can still tell the difference. Although you can also quite literally just forget your dreams because you don't get enough sleep. Oh my god, that was too much. Just delete that dream. Delete the dream. Whoa, hold on, why? It's too intense and realistic. She'll be upset. What does that matter? We live in a society. She's always upset. Yeah, alright, well, yeah, but this one's self-made. Fine. What's the second dream of the night? Doesn't matter if she's forgetting that one too. What? Yeah, she's too tired. How does that make sense? Because I decided that it does. So she can't remember very real dreams, and she can't remember anything when she's too tired. But she is allowed to have hallucinations when she wakes up ahead of schedule. You know what? Just for that lip, she's forgotten all of her Japanese lessons again. Oh, for God's sake! But what if you wake up, but your body isn't quite there yet? That's sleep paralysis, the part where your muscles are paralyzed. That's supposed to go away once you wake up, but for some people, it doesn't. It generally happens when a person is either falling asleep or just waking up. You're aware that you're awake, but your body simply won't move. It can last anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes. The several minute long ones are generally the ones that spawn sleep paralysis demons. Hallucinations likely created by your still awakening brain. It's actually surprisingly common, but again, happens more often when you're stressed, sleep deprived, suffer from narcolepsy, or just had a lot to drink that day. In the past, what we now call sleep paralysis was said to be a visitation by a malevolent creature, attacking its victims while they slept. The first clinical description of this predicament was published by a Dutch physician in 1664, where they refer to it as an incubus or nightmare, but it doesn't end there.
The first noted case of sudden, unexplained nocturnal death syndrome, SUNS, was found in 1977. Refugees from Southeast Asia had fled to the United States and Canada, and a great number of, especially the men, would simply die in the middle of the night. No health issues were ever found, and no foul play could be inferred either. These were all otherwise completely healthy men. At the time, that didn't sit well with anyone, of course. The only real common denominator was the belief in a creature called the Dabzo, nightmare spirit. It was a version of a sleep paralysis demon, presumably at least, and it was immediately credited with the nightly killings. This wasn't exactly uncommon, as beliefs go, even if, in this case, the cause was nothing supernatural. Research conducted long after these deaths revealed that it was, in fact, Brugada syndrome, a heart rhythm disorder that will go generally unnoticed by the patient. They might faint, feel dizzy, or even have seizures, but symptoms like those could mean many things, and Brugada can kill you in your sleep. In fact, it often strikes when the body is at rest. The lower chambers of your heart beat too quickly and irregularly, preventing blood from circulating correctly throughout your body, killing you in your sleep. No sign of a killer, no sign of anything. Is it any wonder an evil spirit was blamed?
Nightmares would come into one's home and choke the life out of you. It wasn't strange to have this fear when many reported seeing these creatures while they lay paralyzed, unable to speak and overtaken by intense fear and terror. During modern times, many victims describe it instead as someone laying in bed with them. You just couldn't see them, as turning over was impossible. Or something sitting in the corner of your eye. You can't quite see them, you just feel that they're there. Once a person was able to move any part of their body or were woken up properly by another person, the episode would pass. And nightmares were not only imagined creatures, although it's certainly a useful umbrella term. In Canadian Newfoundland, it's referred to as the old hag, or in Caribbean St. Lucia as the kokma. But in some cases, they received the description of a succubus, the spirit of a dead, unbaptized baby which attacks people in their beds and cuts off their airflow by jumping on their chest and grasping their throats. Yes, a succubus is not always associated with lust.
Hello?
Hi.
Are you my sleep paralysis demon?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so.
People don't usually talk.
Yeah, this is weird.
So, what's up?
Fear, mostly. Are you a demon?
Succubus is the term, I believe.
Wait, don't you do the thing, you know?
Yeah, most of us do the sex thing, but I'm specialized in sitting menacingly in a corner, so here we are.
But you're still a succubus.
Licensed professional, yes.
So what do you look like?
It could be worse. Canada has an old hag they send around places.
We're in Canada.
Oh, well, you know, like I said, could be worse.
So, listen, are you doing anything later today?
This is my last shift, actually. I'm just here until you can look at me, on account of the whole sleep paralysis thing.
Well, in the spirit of facing your fears, do you want to go see a movie or something? She's gone.
One of the many versions of Lilith's tale include her as Adam's first wife. She refused to bend to him as a lesser individual, and so she uttered God's secret name, turned into a dragon, and flew to the Red Sea where 3 angels pursued her. They gave her God's ultimatum: return to Adam or drown in the Red Sea. And she replied that she was created in order to weaken the babes, and anyway, what it came down to is she was granted the power over all children up to a certain age who inherited the sins of their fathers. She would wander the world and maltreat or kill said children. Adam, now celibate for 130 years, was tricked into sleeping with her anyway, and thus demons were born. Demons who would find people sleeping alone in a house, hover over them and lay hold of them and cleave to them, inspiring desire in them and inflicting disease without the sleeper being aware. Lilith gets a lot of blame for a lot of things, including sexy sleep paralysis dreams.
And dreaming takes on many shapes that do not include demons, mostly like daydreaming. Most people spend about 47% of their time awake daydreaming. In the past, and likely still to some degree, people thought daydreaming was a bad thing. It's distracting and you don't retain information very well while reading and daydreaming at the same time. Which, yeah, you don't say. Whatever task you're focusing on, if you're interrupted by daydreaming, it means the task isn't very interesting, so no, we won't retain much information. Psychologists in the 1950s even tried to warn parents not to let their children daydream, for fear that children may be sucked into neurosis and even psychosis, because they linked daydreaming with grandiose fantasies and noted they were self-gratifying attempts at wish fulfillment. You know, like dreams. How you'd ever manage to stop people from daydreaming, I have no idea. Maybe they were hoping dry cereal would work for that one too.
Another form of dreaming that's somewhat close to daydreaming is lucid dreaming. Sometimes when you dream, you'll realize that you are in fact dreaming, and if you're lucky, you can even influence your dream. Depending on what you're dreaming about, you might need to eat some dry cereal again. A philosopher and physician by the name of Sir Thomas Browne found lucid dreaming fascinating. He was quoted as saying, "Yet in one dream I can compose a whole comedy, behold the action, apprehend the jests, and laugh myself awake at the conceits thereof." Samuel Pepys dreamed of his lady love when he realized he could do whatever he wanted because this was a dream. Eventually, studies were conducted on the matter, of course, and Dr. Keith Hearn, alongside Alan Worsley, managed to prove that lucid dreaming was a real thing.
The first step to lucid dreaming is to realize you're dreaming. Once realized, it's important to allow the dream to continue, but conscious enough to remember that it is a dream. Various parts of the brain aid in this process, becoming either more or less active, and given that this is really all about balancing signals and chemicals, this might well mean that lucid dreaming could one day be induced, and we could have our own little holodeck inside our minds. In fact, they already tried that to a point. Stephen LaBerge and other scientists conducted a study to see if it were possible to attain the ability to lucid dream through a drug. This is a 2018 study as well, so quite recent. Galantamine was given to 101 patients in a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, the only one of its kind. Some participants found as much as 42% increase in their ability to lucid dream. Compared to self-reports from the past 6 months, 10 people experienced a lucid dream for the first time. And given that lucid dreaming also benefits people suffering from nightmares, I'm very much hoping they'll continue their study.
But lucid dreaming isn't just entertaining, it can help you work through your problems as well. Some of the testimonials given after lucid dreaming involved creative issues being solved in their dream. A parent trying to think of baby names, or even a surgeon practicing surgical techniques. The authors thought the reason for this sudden burst of problem-solving energy might be access to our unconscious minds. After all, while dreaming, you only have your own brain to contend with, logically giving you conscious access to the contents of the deepest recesses of your memories. We would suddenly know things we've always technically known but were unaware we knew. A bit convoluted, but useful nonetheless. You can also learn to lucid dream yourself, to a point, although the methods are a bit odd. Having someone wake you up every 6 hours, keep you awake for an hour, rehearsing the dream you had, and then going back to sleep for 3 hours is one of them. There's also a method that has you stop to ask if you're dreaming constantly, giving yourself a literal reality check. This is supposed to train your brain to reality check while in a dream. Oh, and keeping a dream journal also helps. Journals just never stop being useful, which is why I have so many empty ones.
Oh my god, I did it! I'm lucid dreaming! I'm finally lucid dreaming!
Ah, welcome to the land of dreams.
Oh, are you a dream god of sorts?
Yeah, I guess, something like that. Now you can live out your wildest dreams consciously.
This is gonna be great. Let's load up some anime and video games.
Excuse me?
Load up My Hero Academia, Persona 5, and actually also The Witcher 2.
Hold on, where's this going?
Now insert Shota Aizawa, Sei Nijima, and Iorveth.
Why is there romantic music?
Can we get some candlelight somewhere? Thank you.
This is not what this power was meant to be used for.
What, seriously? Well, why do you think people want to lucid dream? To dream mountain climb? Anyway, they all kiss.
Stop!
Lucid dreaming sounds pretty fun and interesting when you think about it, but an adjacent type of dream is a false awakening dream. The kind where you dream about waking up. You're still dreaming, you just don't know it. It can be absolutely terrifying, especially because it's possible to get stuck in a loop for a short while, where you wake up over and over again, without actually waking up. This is something Sleep inflicts upon his previous captor in the Sandman comics, except that loop was in fact infinite. A strange side effect of false awakening dreams also includes real-life consequences. You might wake up as usual and get out of bed to use the bathroom, except you really do go to the bathroom. Yeah.
And those are all our dream types outside of nightmares and night terrors. Night terrors being quite entirely terrifying, shockingly. They're episodes of screaming, intense fear, and flailing while still asleep, even if your eyes are wide open and you're sleepwalking. It can last anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes, and they're entirely inconsolable for the duration, similar to panic attacks. There are some who would also claim healing dreams and telepathic dreams, but it's more likely that people are trying to give meaning to dreams that isn't there. Over the centuries, people have often tried to find meaning in dreams. After all, it is still your brain digging into your subconscious memories, in a sense. However, everyone explains dreams differently. It differs greatly from culture to culture. Not to mention that a lot of dream explanations are actually weirdly mundane. Like dreaming about a person means you're passionate about them, according to some. There's the classic death in dreams to show that something is ending. Teeth falling out means you feel like you're losing control. But seeing birds in your dream might mean you're waiting for a message from someone.
This is something that dates back to Nordic mythology, where Odin was often accompanied by his all-seeing ravens that delivered information. But we're not really in that realm of existence anymore, so why would us dreaming of birds in the here and now even mean that? And if you say Twitter, I will scream. What I'm trying to say is, the meaning of your dreams is more than likely equally influenced by your personal beliefs and interpretations of events as it is by general society. There is no one explanation for the dreams you're having. The way you feel about something is never entirely the same as it is for someone else. In Egypt, dreaming of a large cat symbolized a bumper crop. Eating crocodile flesh meant you would become a village official. Those are pretty specifically relevant to that time and place only.
Yes, maybe dreaming about being in bed with your coworker does mean that they have positive qualities you admire that are welcome in your own life. Or maybe it means he's a Guelph. Your colleague could still just be hot, you know? There's a reason so much research has gone into the workings of dreams. We don't understand them. Anyone claiming to know the ins and outs, what they mean in every situation, is lying. It's you, with your very specific set of experiences and specific set of circumstances, grappling with your brain about how best to process it all. Case in point, Sigmund Freud believed that if a woman had a recurring dream of her teeth falling out, that she unconsciously longed to have children, and that if a man had this dream, he was afraid of castration. Neither of these claims are substantiated. Freud also believed that houses represented bodies. Others thought finding new rooms represented the dreamer finding out new things about themselves, or of their own potential. Do you see how vague this is? The reason certain dreams seem so universal and thus caused many to try to interpret them is more likely because all of these situations apply to basically anyone. Most people use a vehicle at some point, go to school, have teeth, would not like to be naked in public, although exceptions certainly apply here, but that's where the comparisons end, really.
All right, so tell me about your dream. Well, Mr. Freud, it starts off benign enough. I walk into my new house and, you wish to explore a new person's body. What? No, inside the house is a set of painting tools and then, you wish to mark their body as your own. A set of painting tools which I then use to create a beautiful landscape. You wish to experience bodies beyond your current horizon. With galloping horses, you consider yourself a stud. When I'm suddenly at sea, flailing wildly, uncertainty in bed. There are aliens. You feel like an onlooker during sex. Stop linking everything to sex. Repressed sexual feelings. How is your relationship to your parental figures? Sir! Before we conclude with my thoughts, I want to talk about one more dream-related thing that is more just interesting, and that's dreaming in black and white.
What's the answer?
Persona 5 had this question on their test, stating that people often dreamed in black and white until color television came onto the scene. That's not true, Persona 5. That's not true. Research in the past showed that about 70% of people reported dreaming in black and white. However, that study largely notes that people thought they dreamed in black and white. Thought. After reading another study titled Why Did We Think We Dreamed in Black and White by Eric Schitzgabel, I'm convinced that any studies based on people just telling you what color they dreamed in is just not very reliable. Eric, can I call you Eric? Eric also states in his introduction that the main reason he thought it was generally not a very solid foundation as a study was because people are dumb and we actually don't know as much as we think we know.
Several studies were done about black and white dreaming, dating all the way back to 1942. First, 10% of dreams were colored. Someone else mentioned 29%, 9, 12. The 1942 study even noted that some people heard in color during their dreams. What does that even mean? Eventually, in the 1960s, 83% of people had colored dreams. But in various other studies, that number fluctuated wildly too. I wonder if there's a reason for that. But why were the numbers so low in 1942 and quite high from the 1960s onwards? After all, Aristotle mentioned he dreamt in color, which I think we can agree is a while in the past. He's also not the only one. It actually wasn't until the early 20th century that reports of black and white dreams became more frequent. You know, during the rise of black and white television. All this to say that Persona 5 needs to stop lying to the class. Television is not responsible for giving people colored dreams. You pinecones, it's the other way around. Black and white pictures, movies, and television grayscaled our brains. For a bit, and not even everyone. Then it turned back to normal once colored media became more prominent. As if to confirm the previous chapter where we talked about our surroundings influencing our dreams profoundly. We weren't necessarily dreaming in black and white, we were dreaming about black and white media. But even then, Eric notes that it is equally likely that the reporting of dreams changed rather than their content, so people were not actually dreaming in black and white, they just thought that they were. Dreams are hard enough to explain without just asking people what they think they saw.
Dreams are very weird and still largely unexplained. In media, that generally means that they're used as a vehicle. You're shown what a character is really feeling, thinking, what they're afraid of, repressed memories. Sometimes they're just to make an absolutely ridiculous scene, like in The Big Lebowski. There are, of course, still moments where media focuses on dreams and how they work entirely, like Inception, but even then, the concept is so nebulous that it remains nothing more than a vehicle for the plot to happen. Dreams themselves are just brain fantasy land. The most interesting versions of dreams in media probably come from the "Am I still dreaming or not?" stories like Total Recall, based on "We can remember it for you wholesale." But there's only so many ways you can write those. As humans, we really like explaining things, and dreams not bending to that desire is bothersome. In the past, we'd call certain dreams visions from the gods, prophecies. We then tried to reason as to the meaning of dreams. They had to mean something, right? And to this day, we still do that. But the truth is, we can't explain dreams because we can't fully explain our brains yet. Like the depths of the ocean, we're still strangely in the dark when it comes to the brain. Imagine, our brain thinks about itself. It's just far too complex. We can't even fully figure out exactly what sleep does for us, for now at least. Outside of the general complications, it's quite difficult to study the brain at all, ethically. Experimenting on living human beings for the purpose of science is just not that great of an idea. So when it comes to dreams, already a strange mess to begin with, studying them is incomprehensible. That doesn't mean we're going to stop trying, but for now, that's mostly through asking questions after dreaming. And as we've already established, that's not very reliable. Eventually, one day, I've no doubt we'll be able to take the brain apart without involving murder, and when that happens, perhaps we'll be able to choose our dreams. All of them lucid, all of them fun, abolishing nightmares. Meanwhile, my research on dreams has given me the most ever citation-needed notations on Wikipedia I've ever seen. So if you're willing, share with me a peculiar dream you've had in the comments. Mine you already know. Yes. The wind-up bunny dream at the start of this video, that's my dream. I dreamt that. I have no idea where that came from. It was very specifically a Duracell bunny. Not sponsored. Terrifying. Anyway, I hope you heard something new today, and until another tale finds us.
Oh my god. Hi. Again? Are you okay? Oh shit, you're back. No, I had the weirdest dream. Well, we have time. Tell me about it. All right. Well, so take your time. My memory, you know. Anyway, I'm in the sky, and Wall Guy is there, just flying around, fighting crime. And then there's Septic, and he's trying to force the entire world to watch Cats, the 2019 movie.
That's evil.
I know. Anyway, I swoop down, and suddenly I see Kulsta and having a sort of meeting with stuffed animals around a table, and Danny's there, and she's supervising, and they're having this whole talk, and suddenly both Kulsta and Danny decide that, you know, they'd rather have stuffing, and poof, they're just stuffed toys. That's honestly not so bad. You'd think that, but then all of a sudden we're in this medieval castle, and Icesave is there, and he's the king, and everyone's yelling something about family being a circle, and then Laser jumps in, and he's yelling, "I object," and throws like 50 knives at everyone, and poof, everything's so bubbles.
Oddly specific.
And then the bubbles turn into marshmallow cake, and suddenly we're at a dinner party with Ray Ray, and he says, "Past the lemon lake?" And sure enough, there's a lemon lake, and Mike Spears is there, and he's on a speedboat balancing on like 3 elephants, just speeding across the lake.
You know, this started off reasonably normal.
Eventually, Adrian Peckle runs in, a parade of ducks in tow, and crashes into the elephants. Everything explodes, and all of it just sort of morphs into Paul Bongiovanni, and he's playing the DuckTales theme on a harmonica, to which Captain Danvers is playing sort of a tap dance tango with Supergirl. And then I wake up. Are you still there?
Yes. I don't want to be, but yes.
Oh, you know, I meant to ask you about a date before, and...
Oh, but you look at the time. Goodbye.
Damn it.